Sexual assault continues to be a problem on Canadian college and university campuses, but a new study suggests attacks could be cut in half. Researchers at the University of Windsor found that women who took part in resistance training were less likely to be involved in rapes or attempted rapes than women who had not.
When the subject turns to rape on college campus, more often than not, the school will hand over a brochure or maybe a link to a website instructing women on what to be on the lookout for and how to prevent getting themselves into situations out of their control. Our next guest decided to make it a personal issue and start teaching tactics for real life instead of just words on a piece of paper. She's professor of psychology and women's studies at the University of Windsor in Ontario, Canada. Welcome, Dr. Charlene Senn to MidPoint. Doctor, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Did you decide to do this simply because you found that maybe the schools themselves, by just handing out brochures or just having lip service in many ways, just weren't taking this seriously enough?
Yes, we've known about the problem on campuses since 1985. The rates have not gone down, and yet most of our campus prevention efforts have been entirely ineffective.
Let me talk a little bit about the issues itself, because you apparently, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a study done where you took one group that basically got the regular understanding, if you will, the regular education, and then you put them into a classroom and taught them tactics. What kind of tactics are we talking here?
All right. So it's true that women came into the study and they filled out surveys, and then they were randomly assigned to either get the control intervention, which was the brochure. So that meant they went to a room, they could take them, they could ask questions of someone who was knowledgeable, or they actually attended a 12-hour sexual assault resistance education program. And so that was either across a whole weekend or across 4 weeks. So I'm going to be putting it in a nutshell. That's a lot of time. So let me try and tell you what it includes. First of all, I should be clear that it actually only includes 2 hours of physical self-defense. So the majority of the program is not that. So if I try and I'll give you a little situation to think about what the obstacles might be for a woman who's fighting back, and then I can take you through the program. Is that all right?
Now, are you, and again, we're having just a little trouble hearing you because of the connection, so I want to make sure that I get a couple things in here. We hear a lot about tactics being physical. You're not necessarily teaching women how to fight back, are you? Teaching them how to recognize situations and get out of situations, not necessarily with physicality, correct?
The physical part is there, but it's only 2 of 12 hours. So the first unit, which is 3 hours, helps women to identify situations and behaviors that indicate higher risk of sexual violence. And by risk, I mean that they actually show that a behavior that we know is linked to men's sexually coercive behavior, or it's a situation in which perpetrators have an advantage. And those aren't the ones we think of commonly. Then it assists women. The second unit helps them to overcome the emotional obstacles to actually acknowledging that this man who is in front of her, who she might like, but she definitely knows, is trying to hurt her. And then the third unit is about physical and verbal self-defense, but it is about using things and teaching things that women would actually use against acquaintances and debunking the myths about fighting back.
I've got a couple of minutes here, so let me just point to something here. Apparently the program, and I'm told, and I'm quoting here, helps orient women to the real danger cues in situations and in men's behavior. Okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a moment. Do you also teach women about certain behavior? You know people are going to ask about that because that's always part of this discussion here. But we're talking about recognizing men's behavior, but also be very cognizant of their own behavior as well?
No, because there's no evidence. That is all mythology. So if you think about a situation that we know is linked to higher risk of sexual violence, and that would be alcohol. Alcohol is a risk factor, whether the woman is drinking it, the man is drinking it, or people in the environment are drinking it, because it gives perpetrators an advantage. But there is no rape risk of drinking 12 drinks, for example, unless there is a man standing in the room who's willing to commit sexual violence. So no, we do not in any way tell women what they should do. We brainstorm with them about ways to reduce perpetrator advantage.
There are many people who would say that whether it's male or female, but specifically female in this case, because it is such a horrible thing that happens on campus, that young women need to be aware of their surroundings at all times. They need to be very concerned about themselves first. Fair to say?
I think it is, but often when people are thinking about that, they're thinking about walking home from the library late at night, which is actually a low-risk situation, but which many women take precautions about. So in fact, isolation is a risk cue, but it's a much more common situation for that to be the room at the party where no one else can hear you because the music's too loud.
Now, you've done this at one school. I've only got about 45 seconds left. Actually, this is women at 3 Canadian universities who are involved in this. But are you getting widespread acceptance then from universities around Canada saying that this is what we need to do? This is a better way to attack this problem than what we've been doing?
Well, this is the only program that after 1 year actually reduces the rate of sexual violence that women experience. So many people are interested. On my own campus, we are also involved in bystander initiatives, which are a long-term solution. Making sexual violence everyone's issue, that's also important. But for right now, this is very important, and I'll be working across the next year to get a train of trainers together so that other universities can offer it.
It sounds like you've had great success with it, because certainly the percentages show that there are more women who are aware that it's better the way you're teaching it than actually just giving them the piece of paper. So I thank you very much for joining us. Please, continued success, and I hope that not only the universities in Canada, but the ones in the United States and around the world recognize what you're doing as well. Doctor, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
It is our pleasure. Coming up next, the reality of driving for Uber, and McDonald's faces reality and where the money is. We'll show you where the money is. Coming up next, right here on MidPoint.